Hello, and thank you for joining us for this webinar hosted by MedCity News and sponsored by BioT. I'm Stephanie Baum, Director of Special Projects for MedCity News. For this webinar, we'll discuss managing connected devices to support virtual care and developments to make this technology easier to implement, as well as the innovation outlook for this sector of medtech and health tech. In this webinar, we'll explore how a connected care solution can help medtech and pharma companies create direct relationships with patients through a personalized experience to improve reported treatment outcomes. We will address considerations around building a connected care solution and how you can achieve it in a very short time frame. Just some housekeeping rules for the audience. The audience can ask questions if they just drop their questions for speakers into the box for questions. And I'd like to introduce members of this panel. So I've just introduced myself. And we also have, we are joined by Dr. Alan Burton, who is the medical director of Abbott's neuromodulation business. Prior to joining Abbott, Dr. Burton served as chairman of the Department of Pain Medicine at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center from 2000 to 2011. From 2011 to 2015, Dr. Burton practiced privately with Houston Pain Associates, where he directed clinical research and participated in many clinical trials. Earlier this year, Dr. Burton and his team received FDA approval for and launched Neurosphere Virtual Clinic, a technology that allows patients living with chronic pain and movement disorders to communicate with physicians, ensure proper settings and functionality, and receive new treatment settings remotely as needed. As a result, this first-of-its-kind technology landed on Time's Best Inventions of 2021 list. We're also joined by Itai Weissman, the VP of Product in BioT. BioT has been connecting medical devices to the cloud and transforming medical device manufacturers to connected care providers for the last 4 years. BioT specializes in providing a medical-grade, no-code, fully regulated, and fully secured cloud-based connected care platform that allows device manufacturers to shorten the time to build a fully compliant and cyber-secured connected care solution from years to only a week. And now I'll pass the mic over to Dr. Burton, who can provide an overview of Abbott is doing in the realm of connected care, and then he'll pass it over to Itai.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm very honored to join this panel discussion today, and I hope that we can really meet the audience's needs and have some nice interactive discussion amongst the panel, but also with some feedback from the audience. If we can go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. Thank you. So Abbott, as you may know, or as I'll introduce you to Abbott, we're a major medical med tech company globally. And we are very, very excited and proud to have a recognition, as Stephanie mentioned, from Time Magazine about this exciting, innovative platform that we've called Neurosphere. Our Neurosphere digital care platform really has now led the neuromodulation space in bringing digital care to our Abbott patients. I'll walk you through this slide, and unfortunately it's a little bit out of order here. There's 4 items on the slide I'm going to speak to very briefly. The third item over says Patient Controller App, which is kind of a very mundane title, but below it you see a smartphone, and this happens to be an Apple phone. I'm not sure which model this represents, but some of our patients who have implantable devices, as Stephanie mentioned, either for chronic pain syndromes or for movement disorders, in the past, they've had to turn their device on and off or make subtle adjustments using a medical-grade device, which they might awkwardly have to pull out of their pocket in the grocery store or when they're running errands. And so this patient controller app, as part of the Neurosphere portfolio, brings the patient's controller into an app on their mobile device. And our tech teams have had considerable patient engineering and patient-centric work in getting this controller operable by patients, some of whom are quite elderly, some of whom have challenges with movement disorders, to create a very friendly user environment and to create a device where the patient discreetly can look at their smartphone and pull that open in a public arena and really not label themselves as a medical patient. So this has been very, very well received by patients. Then excitingly, I'll move over to the MyPath app, which has, again, all these have come out getting FDA approval and now more recently CE mark approval. The CE mark approval came just in the last few months. And we've had a limited market rollout in the US, now going to full market rollout in the US, and we're in a limited market rollout now in Europe. So we're really excited to bring these to the marketplace and have gone through this process. And it'll make a nice interactive, almost a case study in digital care, which I think will complement Itai's talk very nicely. So the MyPath app really, by the word MyPath, shows the path that a patient takes as they trial the device and as they go from a baseline of, say, chronic severe pain into getting pain relief with this device. And what this allows the patient to do in the pre-digital era, the patient comes in about a week after trying this device and would tell the doctor what % pain relief they got. They might have a diary they write or even a digital diary. They keep notes about what kind of pain relief they have. Are they more functional and so on? What this does is really bring this into the digital realm where the patient does baseline validated outcome metrics. And then they're able to answer those on a daily basis going forward. And it makes it much more user-friendly. The doctor can look at that during the trial period. The patient can reach out and contact the physician or the care team during the trial period to get adjustments made or to check on their progress and so forth. And it really digitizes just much more operable and much more, let's say, a hard endpoint rather than just being an amorphous. I think I did pretty good, but I'm not really sure. This really brings the ability to look at it quite quantitatively. And then finally, Neurosphere Virtual Clinic on the right side will maybe the most exciting part of this portfolio, where in the era of COVID, it accelerated our ability to take care of patients with an implantable medical device remotely. And these patients no longer have to journey into the clinic in order to have their device checked on or to even have reprogramming of their spine stimulator or even their brain stimulator. And this has been extremely well received. We now have, I believe it's around 4,000. I think we crossed the 4,000 mark of patients in the US who are on this platform now. And we've had our first publication looking at how this is operational with patients and the advantages that patients have, again, in being able to obtain more of their care, even very complex care involving an implantable device in the nervous system being reprogrammed from the comfort of their home or let's say even their office, but outside the doctor's office from a remote place. And so this is, again, has gone live in the US and is now in use in Europe, as well as the initial programmings are started in Australia. So, we're really excited to bring this to a global spectrum. And then the last is an insights tool, which is more about patient identification in communities and looking at available electronic health data around specialists who specialize in, for example, movement disorder or chronic pain. And in order in their community to see, are there gaps where they're not educating the right patients or the right perhaps referral sources to get patients who could benefit from these devices in to see those doctors. So this is all under the umbrella of Neurosphere. And we couldn't be more excited about this. And again, we're super honored that Time Magazine really recognized Neurosphere Virtual Clinic as one of its tech inventions of the year. So with that, I'll pass the baton back to Stephanie as the moderator and over to my colleague Itai. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Just to give you a small background on BioTE. BioTE is basically providing a connectivity platform for medical devices where you can create a connected care solution around your medical device by connecting it to the cloud. and creating a set of applications that are aimed to cater for yourself, for the caregivers, and for the patient around this platform. And our claim to fame is that we can shorten the time to market of such an endeavor, which is significant today and can take years. We can shorten the time to build to about a week. So that's roughly about a lot. And Stephanie.
Sure. Thank you, Itai. So I just wanted to kick it off by, but before I get into it, I'd just like to remind the audience that sort of after the presentation by the speakers, we'll have time to hopefully answer some of your questions towards the end of the hour. But with that, let me ask you this, Itai. Device manufacturers today need to manage clinical trials and post-market clinical follow-up and want better reach to improve patient-reported outcomes. What are some of the main challenges you see for this, and how can a connected care system help these companies?
So basically, in our view, device manufacturers have challenges, as you mentioned, in three different domains. They need to allow themselves to support clinical trials, reduce patient drop-off, receive better data, and shorten the clinical time duration. This will save quite a lot of money in the process. Then they have the challenge of most post-market clinical follow-up that they are obliged to do today, where they have absolutely zero data collected in the post-market, and they need to get some sort of way to access data and to ensure the data quality. And when they do access data, by the way, today, it's quite expensive because they have to go either through third party or pay clinics in order to gather this data. And the last, and definitely not least, is the patient-reported outcome, where today they are lacking this reach to the patients that can encourage brand loyalty and affect the way that the patient perceives their treatment. So personalized engagement with the patient is basically not there today, and that's definitely a challenge. The way we look at connected system is that it's not simply connecting to the cloud. You need to do it very fast, the connectivity to the cloud, to allow you to focus on your code, on your core. But you also need, beyond connectivity, you need to leverage this connectivity to the cloud to create a direct and personalized engagement with the patient. And all of these are things that the connected system needs to provide you, because the connected system is not the goal, it's a tool for an end. It needs to allow you to do it very simply and very fast. Dr. Burton, if you have any thoughts on this subject, then I'm sure the audience would love to hear them as well.
Yes, I think you hit on several really important points, Itai, and patient-reported outcomes are a critical cornerstone of our endeavor with Neurosphere, so that we're able to really optimize our patients' outcomes. And part of that, with the ability to make adjustments to the device, we need to understand how the patient's doing in order to have that interactivity. And that's part of the value of this digital connectivity, is it allows us in an ongoing way to keep track of patients who otherwise are only tracked, let's say, through their physicians when they come back for visits into the clinic. And then that is somewhat balkanized data that's across clinics, as opposed to being aggregated in a cloud. The other aspect of that I think is really exciting and important is that patient-reported outcomes until today have largely been tethered to validated tools that often rely on questionnaires or the patient's subjective responses. And as we're able to move into digital care, there are so many rapidly developing ways to objectively assess patient outcomes, including a variety of different tools that are embedded in maybe all of our smartphones, that are things like Apple Health Kit and so on. And we're doing a bunch of work now with our NeuroSir platform. We're really bringing the way that doctors have cared for these patients into the digital arena. So we're using metrics that doctors have always used, like patient satisfaction scores, pain scores, and so on. But we're in the process actively of looking at some technological features that are very readily available through these platforms and bringing those in, and then doing a gradual replacement where we start moving these technical tools into this outcomes measures. So there's a lot of exciting attributes to this. I will also say, which I think you're going to get to shortly, that as we begin to put patients' data in the cloud, of course, we've just been through this on a global scale. In the US, we need to be very aware of all the HIPAA regulations around patient privacy. And then, of course, when you move into Europe, there's patient privacy rules that are different country by country. So this is a real technical challenge, but by no means is it an insurmountable one. But we really have a lot of internal expertise on this, but I think you and your colleagues also, I'm sure, spend a lot of time on that very issue.
Sure. Well, that helps us. Thank you for that, Alan. So that helps us understand where a connected system can help. But what exactly should a device manufacturer consider when assessing a connected care platform, Itai?
Okay, so we said that direct to consumer is something that you need to do, but what exactly does it mean, and what such a connected care platform should allow you? Where can you play? So the idea of a connected care platform is that it should allow you tools to engage your customer that basically affect their perception of the treatment and their perception of the outcome. Remember, it's the patient-reported outcome. It's not necessarily objective. It has a lot of subjective things to them. So any such connected care system should allow you to manage things like adherence to your treatment, support the patient in his way for a better treatment, education. Many patients stop their treatments or stop their treatment protocols because they are ill-informed, because they look at a side effect and decide, oh, that's bad, I'm stopping the treatment. So you need to make sure that they are well informed, and then that their concerns are met. And you need to properly interact with them to receive feedbacks. So if you want to receive a patient, if you want to understand what the patient perceives of the treatment, you have to ask him. And this is something, again, that a system needs to provide you with the correct tools to engage correctly when you want to ask them. For example, don't ask him something if he's right, if you think that he's just finished the treatment and he's driving a car and he will not answer. Okay, ask him at the right time. Ask him and ask him the right questions. So this type of things is also something that a connected care system should provide in order to create a full personalized experience.
I think, Itai, can I add something to that? Because I think that's really critical. And, we've all personally, I think everybody on the call, have had apps that we've started using and then often tapered off, right? We start enthusiastically and then we don't find ongoing value in what we're getting through this application. So I think there's a lot of ways to do this. But one is that the patient needs to perceive some value from this, even beyond just reporting their data out passively, where it disappears to the care team or to the physician, and the patient doesn't see it. So part of our team, we have people on our team, for example, who were like game developers and try to gamify some things to keep it interesting for the patient. We also have done a lot of work in patient centricity and in patient groups and chronic patient groups to see patients, for example, if they're putting data in, the patient would like to see their own dashboard and check on their own progress. And then they might want to even share that with their caregiver, for example, or their family members. They may not want to, but it should, but we've heard of these as potential options. And I think it is really important. And I think what Itai says, how to, creating additional value for the patients. This is where I think this whole concept gets very exciting, because initially we were thinking, oh, this can complement in-person medical care, but in some ways we can probably bring value beyond what you get even in face-to-face medical care. So I think that's really important, this imagination and bringing all the tech world to healthcare and creating this additional value. I just wanted to add that, Itai.
Definitely, Dr. Werner. I completely agree. And this is basically the whole thing about creating a personalized experience. Make the experience fit the patient and create a unique value for him by the way that you are managing his treatment. Another thing you need to consider is that the care provider that is using your device, as you obviously know, is not working in a vacuum. There's a lot of systems that he's connected to, and he has his own data flow, and you need to integrate into this workflow. Creating new workflows for caregivers take away from their attention. You need to be able to support them, to get them more data, to create value for them by having your data from your device accessible for them in a way of highlights, insights, and other information like billing and charging and reimbursement. But it has to go through their existing workflow. So such a system needs to be able to integrate with other systems that the caregiver is using, for example, EHR or billing systems and other systems like that. And the last thing, but definitely not the least, is that you need to keep in mind that such a system, it's a medical grade system, right? It needs to meet medical regulations, it needs to comply with medical standards, and it needs to meet the highest cybersecurity standards. It is no less important than banking. There's very sensitive information there. So you need to be able to comply with all of these regulations, and just creating the expertise to do that and continue doing it, because these regulations keep on evolving, defocuses from your core capabilities. So you're either all in or you're all out on this aspect. It's not an afterthought. This type of capabilities, they take a long time to create and very high expertise. And at the end of the day, this all aspect needs to be done not in a project manner that will take you a year to complete, but you need to be able to connect and start working fast and evolve fast, which means no code for building the system, but still have the ability to add your own code where it's needed. For example, you need a specific algorithm, so you can add it, but without the need to create cloud expertise, cybersecurity expertise, or other expertise of this nature.
Thank you, Itai. Excuse me. That helps explain why a cloud system is needed, but why shouldn't manufacturers simply build their own or outsource one that's tailored for them?
So there are a few challenges that needs to be met, as I mentioned before, that make such an endeavor very expensive and high investment driven. One is, as we started by talking about the direct to consumer, so you need to create this consumer expertise, how to engage with consumers, how to create the value for them, which means you need to understand what it is like to manage experience, to manage adherence, to manage engagement, and all of these areas. These are expertise that you will have to acquire. They are unlikely grown in your organization. Also, all of this compliance expertise, you need to be compliant with HIPAA standards, which are different in, like, there's HIPAA, there's GDPR, and every country, as Dr. Burton mentioned, has its own. You have to meet cybersecurity standards, and you have to continue evolving with them because these standards continuously changing. And in the cybersecurity, it's not only the standards, the threat spectrum is always changing. So you have to meet that. You have to develop cloud know-how, it's very complex. You have a whole new set of expertise, of development expertise that you will need to develop in your organization. And you have to do the continuous ecosystem integration with other systems, which is also a high intensity drill. So all of these things are challenges that you will have to overcome in order to create a medical grade cloud system.
And I would just, Itai, if I might add on to what you just said, and I think earlier I heard you say you need to go all in on this. And I think what the scale of, like, for instance, I work for Abbott, which has 100,000 employees, is a massive Fortune 500 company. And so our digital expertise and, for example, our cybersecurity expertise is significant. And we were able to recruit from this industry that's highly competitive. You know, we have some people from every tech company that you've heard of who are now in leadership roles who really help drive this. And we're able to leverage that expertise in our neuromodulation business also because we have a cardiovascular business and we have a diabetes business that are all similarly working on digital platforms. And so our cyber expertise, for example, cybersecurity expertise, is really industry standard setting in some ways, and are now working, you know, very closely, for example, with the FDA. And so this is a massive commitment, and it is not something that you just buy or roll out as a project that then sits there and doesn't evolve. It is a real significant commitment from the company to find and build that expertise, then to dedicate enough resources, not only to build and go through the development process, but then operationally to stay abreast of these things. As you, I think, very wisely pointed out, you know, there are ongoing issues with cloud maintenance and ongoing evolving cybersecurity concerns around the world. And many of the regulatory agencies are learning from us as we go. And so this is a collaborative process in many ways. And it's an exciting process, but it takes a significant commitment. And so I'm here to really to reinforce when you said that, you know, if companies that are out there considering this need to get really good consultants, and they need to really understand the commitment, I think, that's involved to move into digital care.
Thank you, Dr. Werfer. So basically what BioT is doing is it is taking the complexity out of this process. Instead of you going through the process of connecting your devices, building the cybersecurity, doing all of the data connection, creating the engagement and all of the functionality on top of the system, what we're saying is basically, okay, leave that for us and focus on what matters to you. We are providing a system that is taking care of all of that, that is allowing you to reach the market and to a time to build of about a week for the simple connectivity of a device, which is a huge reduction of time and cost to market, and allows you to focus on the core capabilities that you want to develop in your organization. So basically, our approach is a connected care approach, which revolves around three pillars. One is the ability to connect actually just the connectivity of devices to the cloud and being able to receive the data from them and to operate your devices from the cloud. The second is to collaborate in order to improve outcomes and share information between caregiver, patient, medical devices, pharma companies, and all of this ecosystem. And the last is the ability to care, both in terms of directly engaging with the patient as well as providing the caregiver with the abilities that he needs in order to effectively care for the patient. One thing I've mentioned before is that this type of effort, building a cloud offering, it's an ongoing effort. It's not a one-off because you have to update everything around the system. It starts with cybersecurity and data privacies that are continuously evolving, but also reimbursements continuously evolving and new models of reimbursements are coming into play. You need to be able to support them to create value for the caregiver. You have the cloud itself that is expensive to manage. And many times you end up in a situation where you start questioning the model of the pricing because of the cost of the cloud. So you need to be able to contain these costs as well and to make sure that they are aligned with your business models. And of course, you continuously add features to the system. And these are also things that instead of thinking by yourself of every feature to be added, you can gain from the market expertise by using a platform that is serving quite a lot of vendors. And at the end of the day, what you get is a build process that our experience takes anywhere between 6 months to, between 6 quarters to and less. I mean, there are many companies that we know that simply stopped the process along the way when they understood it was going nowhere. So from a build process that will take you years to a build process that needs to take you less than a quarter and saves you about 90% of the cost and the time to build. And these are the real advantages of a connected care platform.
Thank you for that, Itai. So buying is clearly aimed to reduce ongoing costs and time to market, but even more so to allow manufacturers to focus on their core competencies and leverage a domain expert to provide them the tools to manage aspects they need, but are not in their core skill sets. What skill sets do you think are needed to ensure companies save on time, money, and expertise?
Okay. So I mentioned before the skill set. So in this case, I will talk about what type of capabilities are needed in the system that will actually save you on time and money. So first of all, obviously, you need to have all the functionality of the care, which is the ability to receive your biomarkers, to engage with patient, to manage devices, to provide remote patient monitoring capabilities. On top of that, as I mentioned, you need the security capabilities. But the idea here is that you need to have all of them in a way that they can be consumed very easily by yourself. You don't need to start programming. You don't need to start building cloud solution yourself. Everything is plug and play. So basically, what we provide you is with the ability to build a custom-made system, both for your use and for the organization use. So you can build your manufacturer portal and your organizational portals that are providing the care for all of your customers, and also integrate with the ecosystem. And of course, we also allow you with very fast connectivity to your device, whether it is a BLE device or it is a directly connected device. These are all done without coding, so you can build your first system without having a single developer in the process. And this is key in order for you to be able to in order for you to be able to use a connected care platform rather than build one. So what's important? Obviously, customizing your customizing the workflows and the way that you work and the way that your customers work. So you need to be able to drag and drop and create the portals that you are using in order to manage your organizations, your devices, your assets, and to build an organizational portals for your customers. Basically, for example, a caregiver that wants to provide a nursing station, you need to be able to build an organizational portal that gives him the ability to manage his patient, his devices, his clinic administrators, and all of the people that are working in the organization in order to provide care for the patient. And this is done for us by creating a no-code template that basically allows you to define the way that every workflow of every customer in your system is using. So we basically, the idea is that without needing to code, you can define, we have built-in workflow that defines how your device works, how your patient works, how your caregiver works, and you can define all of that and start using the system. And obviously, you need to be able to customize your remote patient monitoring. And this, again, you have to be able to configure what you want to see, how you want to see. You need to be able to create alarms and alarms and define what is important and what is not important to get both the real-time and historical views of your patient data. All of these things are items that a connected care platform should provide you with the ability to customize to your need and to the way that your devices are aimed to provide the service. And very important, at the end of the day, any such platform that you consider cannot do everything that any device manufacturer in the field needs, because you have some specific expertise. You have core expertise that are not ours, that you want to integrate into the platform. For example, you have some algorithms that are running on the data and providing and are doing some AI calculations and reaching some insights. These are core competencies that you want to keep, and you want to be able to integrate them into a system and make them a part of the system. And you don't want to create your own expertise around cloud and how to manage the surrounding environments of these algorithms. The system needs to allow you to integrate these algorithms into it. And this is done by being able to hook into any flow of the device data, of the configuration data, all of these flows that you, all of the workflows that you define. and it needs to be able to allow you to just write the code of the algorithm and wrap it in a way that it becomes a service in the system, and it is managed under the cybersecurity compliance and scaling envelope of the system. Now, we've mentioned cybersecurity several times in the past. I will not go into details here, but you need to keep in mind that cybersecurity is not an afterthought. Cybersecurity is not something that you build a system and then put in cybersecurity around it. That was the approach about 15 years ago. Today, cybersecurity needs to be part of the practices when you are building and designing your code, as well as how you protect the perimeter. So yeah, there are a lot of consideration here. And at the end of the day, a medical grade system requires a high intensity effort around cybersecurity and requires specific expertise around it in order to really provide the level of security that is needed for such a system.
Thank you, Itai. Oh, sorry about that.
Please, Stefan. No, please, Stefan.
Okay. So, Itai, thank you for that. We have seen so far that just getting connected is not a simple challenge. And we've discussed that personalization is a key part of remote patient monitoring. But how can manufacturers implement it?
Okay. So the first thing of personalization is allowing for self-care for the patient. The patient needs to be engaged with his treatment. So, for example, you provide him with the capabilities to see what is what is his status. For example, he took quite a lot of measurements during the last month. Is he improving? Is he deteriorating? Why? What happened to him? All of the historical statistics that he might want to. If he's on the correct path, you want to keep him on the correct path and show him what are his current outcomes are, and you want to show him that, for example, if he has bad outcomes, you want to show him, okay, listen, this is probably done because you're not adhering to the treatment, or just show him the adherence statistic and get him engaged in ways to improve his adherence to the statistic. You also want to show him what he thought of the treatment and how the treatment has changed as a result of his input. So show that you're listening. Show him also, okay, what happened to you. Make things ordered for him. So show him, for example, all of the events history that he has. So when he's going to a practitioner, it is very easy for him to talk about every event. So that's the first and very basic thing that you have to provide.
Yeah, Itai, may I add something there? Before joining Abbott about 7 years ago, I was a practicing physician, and I think this can't be emphasized, that the patient experience needs to be good, and there needs to be a tremendous amount of focus on there's multiple customers here, right? One is the device manufacturer, one is the physician, one is the patient. I mean, stakeholders, I would say. But the patient, if the patient doesn't find value in utilizing the system, or finds it too complicated, or finds it in some way cumbersome, that's a critical mistake. And I think that you can have the greatest idea and the greatest system set up, But if you don't engage the user, which is the patient, and maybe similarly, you could say the physicians need to be engaged as well in utilizing the data that you're generating. So I think there's some real critical touch points in these systems. When you get a bunch of, and I don't mean this to sound critical, I'm sure there's like, I was about to make a joke about software engineers, which is always dangerous. I work with a bunch of them now, and they make jokes about doctors, so we're kind of even. But I would say that it's very challenging. You can build an amazing system that is just not user-friendly enough for the average patient, or is too complicated on their user end in some way, or the doctor doesn't quite see value in the way the data is presented. And those are surmountable challenges. But I think before you operationalize something really quickly, it's worthwhile a little focus, like a few focus groups with patients, with some mock-ups, and some of the UI is really critical to get it right. And I think this can fail with a very poor user interface, even with an otherwise spectacular system. So I just think this particular slide, and you covered it talking, I just wanted to kind of re-emphasize it, that this is really where the money hits where the rubber hits the road for me.
Yeah, so I completely agree. And to the point, this is something, again, that a connected care system needs to allow you to customize. Because maybe heart patients, they need different experience than COPD patients, and every type of patient on your system needs to have his own unique experience, and that's a key thing around personalized care. And it is also critical to manage the interaction with the patient. It's not only about showing them things and getting them excited about things, but you need to interact, because at the end of the day, you want the patient to understand that the treatment is working, and you want him to answer questions that you have in order to improve your products, or in order to do the clinical trials and post-market follow-up. And for that, you need one of the methods of doing it. Today, we're using questionnaires, but questionnaires, they are very general. And the idea is to be able to serve the patient with the set of questions that they are likely to answer. For example, for every patient, tailor what type of question to ask, when to ask them, how to ask them. Is he now going to answer 3 questions or 1 question? Does he have the capacity span or the attention span to start answering a questionnaire, or just one pop-up yes or no is the only thing that you will get out of him? So all of this interaction with the patient is something that needs to be tailored, customizable, and needs to be able to act on different triggers. And these are things that you should have in a connected care system. On top of that, the patients are not well versed in medicine, as you would, most of them at least, unless they are doctors in the specific field that they have an illness in. But other than that, they are not well versed in medicine. And you need to train them, and you need to educate them when it comes to how to use your device and how to interpret the outcomes that the device shows them. Sometimes you need to advise them on possible side effects, to get them comfortable with the fact that that's a minor side effect, we know it, and you don't need to stop the treatment around it. So such a system needs to allow you to do some interactive training and assist patients when they encounter a problem. And the assist many times should not be done by a human assist, but sometimes patients, they just want a simple answer for a simple question. They don't want to wait for an answer. So you need to understand what are the things that are bugging them and create automatic responses in your systems for that. And if that doesn't help, then also create the interaction with somebody of knowledge, where, like, for example, with a chat model that they can extend information. And the last thing that we're looking at when it comes to personalization of treatment is adherence management. Adherence management, at the end of the day, this is the thing that significantly affects the not only the patient-reported outcome, but also the objective outcome of the treatment. And in this case, you also need to have key capabilities that allows you to track the adherence, make sure that the patient is using the device correctly. It is adhering to not only using the device correctly, but in time and in places and however he needs to use it. So you need to track, and then you need to manage. You need to be able to alert and to alarm and to remind and to assist in providing, for example, the visibility into his adherence statistic and get him engaged. So telling him, listen, last week you've done this and this week you've improved. Encourage him to keep using the system in the correct treatment protocol. And at the end of and on top of all of that, you need to be able to automatically assist him when he has problems. So we mentioned side effect, but also how to. Okay, if he has a problem with actually managing the device, then how to manage it. If you identify incorrect use, tell them and show them how to correctly use them, but also manage safety. So for example, if he's using a certain protocol and he's now received a prescription drug that might interact with this protocol, you need to be able to make sure that this doesn't happen. So all of this is around managing adherence, which is critical, and these are things that a connected care platform should allow you to do. Okay, so I will not go into the details of this slide. I just want to show you how complex the entire purpose of this slide is show you how complex is it to build such a system that is providing all of these capabilities. It has to engage with the device side and to be able to manage the devices. It has to engage with the person side, okay, the clinician and the patient, and it has quite a lot of capabilities that are needed for the basic compliance and regulation, as well as the additional functionalities like adherence and questionnaire management, and obviously the ongoing remote patient monitoring capabilities. So at the end of the day, a connected care system is aimed to allow you better patient outcome, better assist you in your targets during clinical trials and post-market clinical follow-up, and create more revenues, like with reimbursements and other mechanisms like medical device as a service, allow you to migrate your algorithms into the cloud and create different pricing schemes around your medical devices. So this is all from me. I'll skip this one.
Okay.
Obviously, we have some happy customers. I will not go over the list right now with you. And I hope that at the end of the day, we managed to send the message that a connected care system today is definitely something that I think every device manufacturer is considering. If you want to go and build it yourself, you need to remember it's an all-in or an all-out process. It's very time-consuming and effort-consuming. And if you want to consider a system that is off the shelf, it needs to allow you enough flexibility to not only connect your devices, but provide the entire connected care, which is connecting to the ecosystem, providing the remote patient monitoring for your doctors, and the direct-to-consumer touch with your patients.
Itai, I'd just like to take a few minutes before we close up this webinar to just ask you and Alan if you would have a few key takeaways you'd like our audience to take from this webinar.
I think I just mentioned the key takeaways.
Okay, sorry for turning over that.
Yeah,
okay, Alan.
Stephanie, I can add a couple, and I'd just like to thank Itai and you and the organizers too for inviting me on behalf of Abbott. It was really nice and I think validating in many ways to really hear Itai go through all these steps. It makes me appreciate our my colleagues on the software engineering side and really who have executed on Neurosphere in our company. And I really think that the take homes from my perspective within Abbott and looking at our Neurosphere product are number one is that I think in 2021, if you don't have a digital product, a way of interacting with your patients, I think you certainly should be considering it because the whole world has gone digital. I just look at how much of my life is now contained in my smartphone, as opposed to even 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And that includes probably healthcare, which is, maybe the last thing to come along. I think Itai mentioned like banking. I've done my banking on my phone for years. So I think, we should be considering this. Obviously, we had plans in place for several years moving toward remote care and to a digital care platform in Abbott. And I think the pandemic accelerated our programs rapidly and gave us an opportunity to go right into the FDA and really move the timelines forward by a couple of years due to the global pandemic. But I think that and that was a nice aspect to it, that patients didn't have to come in the office and be exposed to risk and so on as we got these through the approval process. But I think it's by no means is it in any way limited or even connected to that pandemic, except just time and space. It just helped us to accelerate and put more resources into that project. But the outcomes of it so far are fantastic. Physicians are amazingly excited about this. The patients are, ecstatic. Our first publication in this showed like a 95%, off the charts satisfaction rating from both the physicians and the patients who interacted with the physicians. And most of those patients were able to take care of their care needs without a trip in to the office, which can consume a lot of resources. We normally think of things just in terms of medical resources, but the ability to have patients in rural locations who can get their care through a digital aspect as opposed to in person is super important. We have doctors in Manhattan who find it equally challenging for their patients to get across a busy urban environment to the doctor's office. So I think digital care is coming, and I think it's incumbent on companies with medical technologies to consider how they're going to do it. And we, as a massive med tech company, Abbott was able to invest in that infrastructure and really build this ourselves. But I think if you don't have a massive resource commitment and a substantial enterprise, I would really consider heavily using consultants such as BioTE. I think that all of Itai's points are really well taken, and it is definitely a worthwhile endeavor. Our patient satisfaction is off the charts. We view this as really just a next iteration in healthcare, is how to deliver care, to patients without them sitting face to face with their doctors. And so I think tomorrow is here today. And again, it's been my honor to be on this panel. So thanks, Itai and Stephanie.
Well, thank you. With that, thank you. Thank you so much to both you, Dr. Burton, and you, Itai Weissman, for a fascinating conversation about the complex terrain of navigating connected care. And also thank you to our audience. Although we weren't able to get to all your questions, any outstanding questions we didn't get to will be answered by email in a timely manner. Thank you to BioTE for sponsoring this webinar. Thank you for joining us. A replay of this webinar will be available on demand on our website shortly. And thank you for joining us, and have a great day.